friends, now today in this session we are going to discuss about two most important examinations that every MBA aspirant will definitely take. Yes, friends. Now, these two important examinations, these two most important examinations are not only important because of the quality of colleges that are participating in these examinations, but it is also important, these examinations are also important because of the number of colleges that participate in these examinations. Now, why these exams are important? Every person might have a different reason for that, but definitely I can say that you all will believe that these two examinations are very important. Yes, my dear friends, I am talking about CAT and XAT. All right. Now, friends, in this session, I welcome all of you on this Monday afternoon on the YouTube channel of BYJU'S Exam Prep. And in this session, I'll be throwing some light on these two examinations. So I hope I am clearly visible and audible to all of you, friends. I am Gaurav Gupta, and like I already mentioned that. Today we are going to discuss in detail about these two examinations. All right. Now, during our discussion, I will be talking something about the features of these two examinations. So it might be possible that I'll be discussing some of the similarities. Yes, there are plenty of similarities among these two examinations. In parallel, there are plenty of differences between these two examinations. So, should we discuss the similarities, or should we discuss the differences between these two examinations? Now, I'll not call them similarities. I'll not discuss the differences. So, let us discuss the features of these two examinations in contrast with each other. All right. So, I will quickly start off with the basic modalities of these two examinations. All right. So, if I talk about these two examinations separately, talking about XAT, first of all, obviously the conducting body is XLRI Jamshedpur, right? So, the conducting body is XLRI Jamshedpur, and this examination is held only once in one complete year, and generally this examination is held on the first Sunday of January. All right, so all the students who are preparing for CAT in the upcoming session, then all of you will be taking XAT examination in the January of 2024. So I must write this. So this will be conducted in the January of 2024. So that is why those students who will be taking CAT 2023, they will be taking XAT 2024. Yes, so the upcoming XAT examination will be called as XAT 2024. So friends, the conducting body is XLRI Jamshedpur. The examination frequency is once every year, and the mode of the examination is online. Now, unlike CAT, in this examination, there will be 5 sections that you will be seeing, and the duration of the entire examination for all these 5 sections will be 190 minutes. Now, talking about CAT, on the other hand, yes, all of you will be taking CAT 2023. The conducting body is IIMs. Now, every year, like out of, I'll say out of the parent IIMs, out of the first generation IIMs, every year there is a new IIM that becomes the conveyor of the examination. So the conducting body is definitely the different IIMs on the rotational basis. Again, the examination is conducted once a year, and generally this examination is conducted in the month of November, generally the third weekend of November. All right. Examination mode is online, and the total number of sections are 3. I'll be throwing light on the 5 sections of XAT as well as the 3 sections of CAT briefly. The duration for CAT examination, as we all know, is 120 minutes. Now, how these 190 minutes, how these 120 minutes are divided among different sections, among different parts, yes, we are going to discuss that particular thing in detail. Now, moving ahead, talking about the number of questions and the pattern of these two examinations. So if I talk about XAT examination, there will be a total of 101 questions. Yes, so I'll be elaborating these 101 questions. Now, the entire XAT examination is divided in two different parts. Yes, two different parts. Part number one consists of three sections. The name of the sections are number one, verbal ability and logical reasoning. Number two, decision making. Number three, quantitative aptitude and data interpretation. So, as clearly the name suggests, the first section. Now, these sections will not come in a sequence, so you will get to understand this thing. So, part number one, all the three sections will be a part of a single question paper. Okay, so all these three sections will come together. Section number one, in general, it is verbal ability and logical reasoning. So, which covers the questions of verbal ability as well as logical reasoning. In CAT, we have a separate section for logical reasoning. Now, good to know, important to know for all of you that in XAT, logical reasoning is totally different. So, it is verbal based logical reasoning. Whereas in CAT, we generally see quant based logical reasoning. In XAT, we see verbal based logical reasoning. All right. The other section in XAT, part number one, will be decision making, where the questions based on your decision making skills will be there. The third section will be quantitative aptitude and data interpretation. So yes, here the questions of data interpretation you will find in the section of quantitative aptitude. Now again, if I'll compare the questions of data interpretation with the questions of data interpretation of CAT, so in CAT we generally find the questions of data interpretation which are also logical. So in CAT, over the years, we have seen less calculations in the questions of data interpretation and more logic in these questions. Whereas in XAT examination, these questions are typically based on calculations. All right. So that was part number one of XAT examination. Now, once you are done with part number one, you will switch to part number two. And yes, so this will be a separate paper. So once you will submit part number one, so this is an online test. So the examination will be submitted. And after that, part number two will start, and that will comprise of general knowledge and one essay that you will have to type in the examination. All right. I'll also discuss the relevance of part one and part two separately. Don't you worry about that. I know there must be a lot of questions that might be popping up in your mind that do we have any different time limits for part number one and part number two? Do we have sectional time limit for three sections of part number one? Yes, I'll be clearing all your doubts. Don't worry. So, if I talk about the entire duration, it was 190 minutes. Now, these 190 minutes are divided in these two parts. So, if I talk about part number one, a total of 165 minutes will be given to you. Now, these 165 minutes totally dependent on you how you divide these 165 minutes. So, we don't have any kind of sectional time limit as far as the three sections of part number one are concerned. Yes, so जो first part के three sections हैं, all these three sections will come together and आपकी मर्जी है 165 minutes को किसी भी तरीके से divide कर सकते हो. Okay, whereas in CAT, what happens? For all the three sections, you are given 40 minutes, 40 minutes, and 40 minutes. Yes. So, unlike CAT examinations, it's totally up to you how do you want to spend these 165 minutes for these three sections in part number one. All right. Now, after 165 minutes, the paper will be submitted, and after 5 minutes, the second part will start. That will have 25 minutes. Okay. Now, how and like what will be the composition of these sections? What will be the number of questions in these sections? Yes, I'll be discussing that. Don't worry about that. Okay. So, part number one, three sections in that, 165 minutes, no sectional time limit in part number one. Again, part number two, there will be some general knowledge and there will be one essay that you will have to type, and you will be given a total of 25 minutes for that. All right. Now, if I talk about the type of questions, every question in part one and every question of general knowledge is of multiple choice questions. Obviously, essay cannot be multiple choice question. Okay, so you'll have to type the essay. So all the questions but the essay are multiple choice questions, and you will have to type the essay in this paper, right? Now the total marks is 100, okay, plus 1 for every correct answer, minus 0.25 for every negative answer, and one peculiar thing about XAT is there is a negative marking for unattempted questions. Okay. Now guys, unattempted questions के लिए भी negative marking है, but वो क्या करते हैं? What they do is, so you are allowed to leave 8 questions unattempted, and no marks will be deducted for these first 8 unattempted questions. Over and above 8 questions that you will leave unattempted, there will be some negative marking. Now that negative marking is negligible. So problem क्या होती है? बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स देखते हैं कि अनअटेम्प्टेड क्वेश्चंस के लिए भी नेगेटिव मार्किंग है, एंड वो क्वेश्चंस को अब्रप्टली अटेम्प्ट करना शुरू कर देते हैं. That is not at all a good thing to do. Okay, so you have a negative marking for unattempted questions, but that negative marking is negligible. It's something around 0.02 per question. Okay, so 0.02 per question का मतलब क्या है? अगर 50 questions unattempted छोड़ते हो, okay, listen carefully, 50 questions, if you leave 50 questions unattempted, then only 1 mark in total will be deducted, right? So please don't take any undue pressure on your mind because of this negative marking for unattempted questions. All right, this is one very important thing that I wanted to tell you. Also, negative marking applies only in part number 1 of XAT examination. There is no negative marking for the GK section. All right. Okay. Now, if you'll see the total number of questions in part number 1, you will understand that there is no harm in leaving some questions unattempted. Right. Just telling you, there are only 75 questions in total in part number 1. Only 75 questions, right? So this is the entire pattern of XAT examination. Some more things which I have already told you. Part number 1, 165 questions. Part number 2, a total of 25 questions. All right. Now let's go to the pattern of CAT examination. I am sure that most of you would already know, so I'll cover it quickly. So CAT has a total of 66 questions which are divided among 3 sections, not equally. So these 66 questions are not equally divided. You will get to know the number of questions if you don't know. The 3 sections are: number 1, verbal ability and reading comprehension; number 2, data interpretation and logical reasoning; number 3, quantitative ability, right? The type of questions in CAT that you'll find will be both mix of MCQs and TETA questions. Now, TETA questions are the questions in which you'll have to type your final answer. So let's say in a question of quant, your answer is 43. So you just have to type 4343 using the keyboard that is given to you, or there is a virtual keyboard as well, right? Now, every question in CAT is of 3 marks. So 66 multiplied by 3 is 198. Plus 3 for every correct and minus 1 for every wrong. No negative marking for TETA questions in this case. Also, no negative marking if you will leave any question unattempted. All right. So this is what we see in CAT examination. All right. Okay, now next thing is the time limit. All of you would know that the CAT examination is divided in 3 sections, and every section has a time limit. There is a sectional time limit, so every section has a time limit of 40 minutes. So 40 minutes for first section, it will be submitted automatically after 40 minutes. For second section, again 40 minutes, and then for the third section, again 40 minutes, right? So as far as the sectional time limit is concerned, there is a big difference between these 2 examinations as well as the pattern of these examinations. XAT has 5 sections, CAT has 3 sections. This, like, there will be some type of questions that you will see only in XAT which you will not find in CAT, and vice versa, right? So this is some important things. These are some important things about CAT and XAT examination. Okay, now let's move on and look at the section-wise weightage of each of these examinations separately. So let's break this examination of XAT in some further parts. Now, that is slightly a different examinations in terms of weightage since it has some extra sections. Okay. Now, like I told you that it is divided in two different parts. Part number one having three sections, which does not have any sectional time limit. The number of questions in each of these sections will be for verbal ability and logical reasoning 26, for decision making 21, and for quantitative aptitude and data interpretation 28. Now, for these questions, for these 75 questions that you will see in part number one, plus 1 will be given to you for every correct and minus 0.25, that is 1/4 of negative marking will be there. Okay, all right. Now all these questions, all these 75 questions will be of the nature of MCQs that we have already seen, right? Now after 165 minutes are over, the first part will be submitted automatically and then the second part will start. Now, second part will have a combination of two types of questions. One is general knowledge and the other question is essay. So there will be 25 questions on general knowledge and then you will have to write one essay. It's totally up to you. You write the essay and then attempt the questions of general knowledge, or you will do it vice versa. It's totally up to you. But in total, you will be given 25 minutes for these 25 questions of general knowledge plus one essay that you will have to type. Again and again, I'm mentioning that you will have to type this essay. You will not have to write the essay. All right, fine. Now, one, uh, one very important thing that you all must know is how XAT percentile is calculated. Okay, XAT percentile. So we all know about the percentile scores that we get after the examination. Now, XAT percentile is calculated on the basis of first three sections. That is part one only, right? To calculate the percentile of XAT, the score of general knowledge and essay, that means part two is not considered. Okay. Now, why they conduct part two? So I'll tell you the importance of part two. Now, once you get the percentiles on the basis of part number one, so once you get the scorecard, so yes, you will get the percentile that is based on part one, and you will also separately get your score in general knowledge. So the scorecard will have the score of part number one, on the basis of which your percentile will be calculated, and the score of general knowledge from part number two, right? Now, the students who will get a call from XLRI Jamshedpur, right? The students who will get an XLRI call, for those students, part number two will be evaluated. Okay. So the score of part two will be counted for the admissions of XLRI, not the other participating colleges under XAT examination, right? So this is one very important thing that you all must know. So any student who is targeting XLRI, specifically XLRI, then that student has to perform equally good in all the five sections of entire XAT examination, right? So if I'm targeting XLRI, I should be good in general knowledge. I should be good in essay writing skills as well, because these two are the sections which will also be evaluated after the written examination of XAT during the second round of selection procedure for XLRI. But if let's say I am a student who is not targeting XLRI, then I can afford to skip these two sections as well. I can afford to skip the entire part number two. That will not reflect, that will not reflect on my percentile score of XAT examination. All right. So this is very important thing that a lot of you will not know. Now, moving on and looking at CAT examination, the section wise weightage. So, CAT examination having three sections. Section number one, verbal ability, reading comprehension, having 24 questions, which needs to be done in 40 minutes. Section number two is data interpretation and logical reasoning, having 20 questions, again 40 minutes. And section number three, so I've just arranged them in the order in which they will appear. So first of all, VARC will appear, then DI and LR will appear, and then finally the third section will be quantitative ability. In total, Last year, there were 22 questions in QA section, and you were given a total of 40 minutes. So now these numbers, the number of questions are on the basis of CAT 2022, the last year pattern of CAT examination. All right. So a total of 66 questions, 120 minutes. We should not see it like this. We should see these three sections separately. All right. Now moving forward, talking about the CAT score versus percentile. Okay, so let's understand. So this is the overall score versus the overall percentile. I will be discussing the section-wise score as well as percentile. Okay. Now, if I talk about CAT 2022, that means last year CAT, to get a 90 percentile, a student who has got 48.5 marks. This is marks, not the number of questions. Okay. So student getting 48.5 marks overall. I'm not talking about sections, but I'm talking about the overall score. So a student who has got a total of 48.5 marks is able to get 90 percentile in CAT. That means approximately 16 to 17 questions. 16 to 17 questions effectively correct will fetch you 90 percentile, right? So 66 questions in total. 66 questions में से 16 17 questions effectively correct करने हैं तुम्हें, and you will get 90 percentile. This is how easy to score 90 percentile in CAT examination, right? A student getting 60 marks, that means effectively 20 questions correct. नेगेटिव मार्किंग वगैरह सब कुछ मिला के 20 क्वेश्चंस इफेक्टिवली अगर करेक्ट कर देते हो, सो यू विल गेट अ परसेंटाइल ऑफ 95. You can understand, right? Now looking at the other numbers, 82.5 marks. 82.5 marks means effectively 27 28 questions correct अगर कर देते हैं out of 66 questions. That is not even half of the marks, right? That is not even 50 percentage. So scoring less than 50% marks in CAT examination, just less than 50% marks in CAT examination, will fetch you a score of 99 percentile. Also at 93, a score of 93, which is again less than 50 percentage of the total marks. Total marks कितने हैं? 198. 198 marks का पेपर है, उसमें से 50% score कर लो, you will get 99.5%. All right. So this is score versus percentile mapping for the last year of CAT examination. Now you have the comparison for CAT 21, 20, 19, 18, 17 and 16. So I have given you the comparison for the last 7-year papers of CAT. Okay. CAT 2021, the paper was of 198 marks. So don't just look at the marks you'll have to score. Also look at the total marks that are allocated. All right. Also before CAT 2020, there used to be 60 plus 60 plus 60 minutes. That means a total of 3 hours for which the CAT used to be conducted. अब कितने का हो गया? अब 2 hours का हो गया, 40 minutes, 40 minutes, 40 minutes. Before that, it was 60, 60 and 60 minutes for each of these sections. Okay, so that is why a considerable increase in the score that is required to get these respective percentiles. Okay, so ये चीज भी कंसिडर करनी है हमें. ऐसा नहीं है कि पहले पेपर इजी होता था, नहीं, पहले टाइम ड्यूरेशन ज्यादा होता था, अब टाइम ड्यूरेशन रिड्यूस हो गया बिकॉज ऑफ द कोविड इफेक्ट, राइट? ओके. Now moving ahead and doing the same thing for XAT score versus percentile. So I have some columns which are blank, so I could not get the information for that. But let us discuss. So I have the entire information for XAT 2022. The previous, so जो अभी XAT गया है जनवरी में, उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे. The previous XAT examination. So let's talk about XAT 2022 one by one, section wise. Okay. Now, to get a 90 percentile in XAT examination, a score of 11.91, 11.91 in the QA section is required. Okay. Then, if I talk about verbal ability, at 10.65, you will get a 90 percentile. And in decision making, a score of 7.2 will fetch you 90 percentile. An overall score of 25.64 will fetch you a 90 percentile. Generally, I have seen students getting a call from XLRI on a percentile which is slightly above 90 percentile. So ZAT में ऐसा नहीं होता कि 99 वाले को ही call आएगा. I've seen students getting 92, 93 percentile and still getting a call from XLRI Jamshedpur. Okay, so if I'll talk about a safe percentile, right? So 97 percentile having cleared the sectional percentiles, okay, will fetch you an XLRI call. So quant पे कितने marks चाहिए? 15.8, verbal ability 13.3, decision making you need a score of 9 and an overall score of 32, and an overall score of 32 will fetch you a 97 percentile in that examination. All right, fine. GK percentile में use नहीं होता, so just forget about that. So these are the scores. Still you will get in GK to get a 97 percentile for ZAT 2022. Okay. Now, moving ahead and talking about the preparation strategy for each of these examinations. Now, I would say that the preparation strategy will not differ a lot. Okay, all of us know how do we need to prepare, but I'll be telling you some specific points that you might not have observed, और इतना कोई research नहीं करता जितना हमने research किया है. Okay, so if you'll dig deep into a few things and observe the pattern of last 5 or 6 years, then you will get to know all these things. Okay, now all these things becomes very important for a student who want to basically get into any of the IIMs or who is dreaming to get into the top 5 B schools of the country. Okay, so that is why this preparation strategy is very important. Generally 90 percentile लाना मुश्किल नहीं है, but crossing the barrier of 95 percentile, crossing the barrier of 99 percentile, getting a call from top 5 B schools of the country, yes, this is not an easy task. Okay, so for those students who are dreaming big, so these are some very small things that we have got for all of you that you can focus on once you are on the verge of completing your preparation for CAT examination, right? So you all can keep these small pointers in mind. First of all, CAT examination. Now, talking about the verbal ability and RC section, reading comprehension section. So these are some of the takeaways from the last 4 or 5 year paper of CAT examination. Number one, 23 out of the 56 passages that have come in the last 5 years were from the experts from the books, like experts from the books, Aeon Essays and NYT. NYT, you know that. Okay, so 23 out of 56 passages, near about 40% of the passages were from these sources. Also, 27 out of 56 passages in the last 5 years were from the three genres, the genres that you run away from. Okay, so these are not the favorite genres, but yes, around 50% of the passages have come from these three genres. Number one, sociology and anthropology. Number two, ecology, zoology, and biology. And number three is philosophy and psychology. Okay, so these are some genres from which we have seen somewhere around 50% of the RC passages coming in CAT examinations over the period of last 5 years. Okay, so if you start focusing on these areas, I'm not asking you to find out the reading comprehensions from these areas and solve them. Okay, now you just need to be comfortable when it comes to reading of these genres. You must have prior knowledge. So ऐसा होता है ना कि अगर हमें किसी area के बारे में prior knowledge है, then will be more comfortable reading in reading the reading comprehensions of that particular area. Okay, so हमारा interest थोड़ा सा develop हो जाता है. So let's say if I am an expert of cricket, या फिर मुझे cricket देखना बहुत पसंद है, या फिर I'm into sports, right? So any RC passage that will be on the subject of sports, I might take more interest in that. उसको read करने में, समझने में मुझे कम time लगेगा, and hence questions को answer करने में शायद थोड़ा सा कम time लग सकता है. So same is with these three genres. These three genres are not the favorite genres of majority of people, but from day one onwards, if you start reading some stuff on these areas, then you might be able to understand or I'll not say that you will completely understand, but definitely your understanding will increase if you are solving any reading comprehension from any of these areas, right? Now, moving ahead, some more takeaways. Important topics to study with respect to verbal ability, as 48 out of 112 questions in the last 5 years have come from these areas. Now, 48 questions out of 112, so a mix of questions, not only reading comprehension, but the questions other than reading comprehensions, para jumbles, para completions, para summary. So, these are the type of questions that have come from these areas. So, you can read these areas: science and technology. This area we have already covered: literature and linguistics, culture and lifestyle, philosophy and psychology. Okay, so these are some areas that you need to focus on before you enter the examination hall. Now, these are the areas which cannot be completed in a matter of 1 week. Okay, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आप सोचो कि कैट एग्जाम से 1 वीक पहले 1 मंथ पहले हम इन एरियाज को रीड करना शुरू करेंगे एंड हमारा भला हो जाएगा. So you will have to start reading on these areas from right now. Okay. Now moving ahead, talking about the score versus percentile for VARC. So these are the scores of the last year on which you have scored the respective percentiles. Okay. So this is the magic number for me because I first of all will focus on clearing the sectional cutoff for each and every section. ओके सो 23.5 मार्क्स अगर VARC में आ जाते हैं, 23.5 मार्क्स, दैट मींस इफेक्टिवली 7 और 8 क्वेश्चंस करेक्ट, 8 क्वेश्चंस बोल देते हैं, इफेक्टिवली 8 क्वेश्चंस करेक्ट आउट ऑफ 24 क्वेश्चंस. सो इफेक्टिवली अगर 8 क्वेश्चंस हो जाते हैं, दैट इज वन थर्ड. ओके, यू विल फेच 90 percentile and you will clear the sectional cutoffs of every college, every damn college, right? And the scores above that, you will fetch 95 percentile, 99 percentile, and so on. So magic number for me is 90 percentile. That means we are clearing the sectional cutoff for each and every IM, right? So let's keep a track of this, 23.5. Okay. Now moving ahead, data interpretation and logical reasoning. Now, these are the areas that have been seen in the last 5 years, 2017 से लेके 2022. So 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22. 6 years का data collate किया हुआ है. Okay. So these are the areas that have been asked the most in the last few years. Reasoning based DI has always been the favorite. DI का एक question तो मिलेगा ही मिलेगा. And like I told you, in the over the last few years, data interpretation is not at all calculative, it is more towards logical side. Okay, so reasoning based DI, there were 10 sets that have been asked in the previous years. Okay, and you can see the number of different sets which have appeared from different areas. All right, now talking about score versus percentile, again let's look at the magic number. So at a score of 15, effectively, understand this, effectively 5 correct, at a score of 15, you are getting 90 percentile. So in CAT 2022, if you will select one complete set of 5 questions, so there were 4 sets of 5 questions each, you will select one set, completely finish it, all correct, all 5 correct, you will get 15 marks and will get 90 percentile. Over and above, it is a bonus. Fine, you are able to do 2 sets, you will get 99 percentile, right? So one set से सीधा 2 set पे jump किया, 40 minutes है, on an average student 2 sets तो कर ही लेगा. Okay, so it is not at all difficult to fetch a 99 percentile score, but I can say that 90 percentile easily score हो सकता है. Okay, so in verbal RC it was 23.5, in data interpretation it is 15. So अभी तक कितना हो चुका है, 38.5 in the 2 sections, and I'm getting 90 percentile in each of the sections, right? Now moving ahead and talking about quantitative ability. Now in QA section, arithmetic and algebra have these two areas have always been the most important areas for every examination, and so is the story for CAT. Okay, last year out of 22 questions in CAT examination of QA section, There were 8 to 9 questions. Why I'm writing 8 to 9? Because there were three slots of CAT in CAT 2022. Okay, so in some there were 8, in some there were 9. So 8 to 9 questions were from arithmetic, and 4 to 9, ranging from 4 up till 9. So as many as 9 questions appeared from algebra. Now 9 plus 9, 18 questions out of 22 from arithmetic and algebra alone. You can understand the importance of these two areas. Rest, geometry mensuration, number systems, modern maths are equally important. Okay, but the two most important areas are arithmetic and algebra. Now, on the basis of this, do not do not infer that you can completely depend on these two areas. So if you are aiming high, then you cannot afford these areas as well, because there are plenty of students who are finishing off with a syllabus of QA entirely. Okay, तो सिर्फ अर्थमेटिक और अलजेब्रा पे डिपेंड करके इफ यू आस्क मी कि सर हमारा IIM अहमदाबाद में एडमिशन हो जाएगा, सो माय आंसर विल बी नो. पॉसिबिलिटी है, श्योरिटी नहीं है. So if you are ready to take chances, it's totally up to you, but I'll not suggest you to take any chance, right? Now, if I'll so I have done this thing based on the number of questions that have appeared from each area. So arithmetic, you can see the different number of questions that have appeared in the last 5 years. नहीं, ये गलत है. So this is for the last 5 years. Okay, so this is the data that has number of questions that has appeared in the last 5 years. Okay, so I can say that time, speed, distance, time and work are the most important areas when it comes to arithmetic. Similarly, for algebra, quadratic and sequence and series are the two important areas. Linear equations and functions are the next two areas to follow after quadratic and sequence and series, right? Geometry, in geometry, you will find more of the questions from triangles as well as polygons, coordinate geometry, and quadrilaterals, right? Number theory, there were 15 questions in total, and modern maths was divided into permutation, combination, probability, and set theory. Over the last few years, we have not seen any question from probability, but you must prepare this area. You never know that if there is a question of probability sitting in CAT 2023 examination or not. Okay. Now talking about score versus percentile, again talking about the magic number, 90 percentile 17. So earlier we had 38.5, now adding 17 to this, 55.5. So 90 percentile, 90 percentile, 90 percentile in each of these sections will fetch me 55.5 in total. Now, comparing this 55.5 with the overall percentile that we have seen earlier, so if I'll get 55.5 in total, taking care about these sectional cutoffs, 90, 90, 90 in each of these sections, so my overall percentile will be between these two. So I'll be sitting somewhere around 93 to 94 percentile overall. Okay, overall 93, 94 percentile aa jayegi if I am able to make sure that I have just cleared the barrier of 90 percentile in each of the sections. Okay, all right. Okay, chalte hain aage. Now talking about XAT examinations. Now for that examination, I will be giving you some of the important pointers that you need to take care when you are preparing for XAT examination. Now, since the pattern, the type of questions, the number of questions is totally different for XAT as compared to any other examination, so you must be like very careful when you are preparing for XAT examination. So this is the overall preparation strategy. I'll quickly go through. So first of all, important is examination pattern. Now, what we generally do is, what mistake we generally do is, we keep on preparing for CAT examination and we forget about the other examinations, which are also important, like XAT examination. XAT examination का जो pattern होता है, it is totally different from the pattern of CAT. So it will be better to get familiarized with the pattern of XAT well in advance, understanding the different sections, this marking scheme, the time allocated to each section. Do we have sectional time limit or not? Okay, so what all sections we need to prepare for? There are two different things that you need to prepare in XAT examination. Number one, it is the section of decision making, right? If you are preparing for CAT, you will never even hear about decision making. right? It is not the decision making that you will see in NMAT examination. This is totally different type of decision making. Okay. The second thing is general awareness, general knowledge. That will help you in solving the questions of general knowledge, those 25 questions, as well as it will also help you in writing the essay. Okay. So these are the two main things that you'll have to focus for XAT examination. The second point is you need to gather the relevant study material for XAT. Okay, so the material कहीं से भी मिल जाएगा, but material relevant होना चाहिए. Like I explained, decision making section. So if you are studying decision making from a study material that is meant for NMAT examination, so that is not the type of decision making that you'll have to do. So XAT का जो decision making होता है वो भी totally different होता है. So you will have to look for a specific relevant study material. Okay. So go for some official XAT preparation books that you can get online या फिर hard copies मिल जाती हैं book stores पे, or you can trust any of the national level coaching institute. Okay, we at BYJU'S, we have different sessions for that examination. Okay. The next is create a study plan. So the way you are preparing for CAT examination, the same efforts you need to make for XAT examination also. All right. So develop a study plan that will suit your schedule and allow you to cover all the section of this examination. You cannot afford to leave any of the sections, because if you're targeting XLRI, yes, XLRI will also have sectional cutoffs for the first three sections in part number one. Also, like I told you that the score of part two, that is general knowledge and essay writing, will also be considered for the final admissions of XLRI. So you'll have to prepare entirely for all these five sections, right? So you will have to allocate specific time for studying each and every section of that examination, right? Now, moving ahead, you can start by focusing on the fundamentals, right? So this will always be the first step. So you can start by focusing on fundamentals, just cover up all the fundamentals of different sections that are there in XAT examination. Same is the advice I can give you for the preparation of any examination, right? So once your fundamentals are good, fundamentals are strong, now your base is strong. So you can put one brick, two bricks, three bricks, one brick at a time and increase the load on yourself. समझ गए होगे जो मैंने बोला? So once your fundamentals are strong, then you can start increasing the level of difficulty gradually. Okay, so just refer to one particular study material that you have and finish it entirely. It is very important. Do not keep flip-flopping between the different study materials that you may borrow from some other sources. Okay, so if you are following study material of a particular institute or a particular author, then complete it, finish it off before you start or before you refer to the study material of any other coaching institute or any other author, right? Now, after all these things, you can also start solving the previous year papers of CAT, XAT, or whichever examination you are taking. That doing this particular thing will help you in understanding the actual level of difficulty that you are preparing for. Okay. Now, if you solve these previous year papers towards the end of your preparation, then you will not be able to cover up any gap if there is any. Okay, so occasionally you must look at one of the previous year papers. ऐसा नहीं है कि सारे के सारे previous year papers एक साथ कर दिए. So after 2 or 3 months of your preparation, open up last 2 years के previous year papers खोलो, उनमें से चेक करो कि like what is the level that you have already reached. ठीक है, so ये सब चीजें करो. Then occasionally keep testing yourself using the practice mock papers. Okay, that has to be important, because if you'll not simulate, if you'll not have a proper simulation of the actual examination, then you will never be able to manage the challenges that comes in front of you during the examination. All right, so this is very important thing to do. All right. Next is enhance your language and general knowledge. This is very important for XAT examination. Now, XAT examination is slightly difficult examination, slightly complex examination as far as the language is concerned. Also for CAT examination, for written examination, you don't have to study general awareness, general knowledge. But for XAT examination, those who are targeting XLRI, they need to focus on their general awareness, right? So language and general knowledge, these two things needs to be improved if you are looking to get an admission in in XLRI. The last thing is the time management that is definitely required for each and every examination. In CAT, when you have sectional time limits for every section, that means you know you will have to spend 40 minutes in the first section, 40 minutes in the second, and 40 minutes in the third. CAT ने simple कर दिया है. ZAT में ये चीज problematic है. आपको अभी लग रहा होगा कि ZAT में sectional time limit नहीं है. That is good for you. But people who are preparing for CAT examination, they are somehow programmed to attempt CAT examination. फ्रीडम अगर मिलती है हमें 165 मिनट्स कंप्लीटली मिले हैं तो फ्रीडम कभी कभी डाइजेस्ट नहीं होती. Okay, so same thing happens in that examination. You will be confused how to divide these 165 minutes in those 75 questions or in those three sections of that examination. Okay, so time management is one another thing that you will have to develop, that you'll have to understand for that examination. All right. So friends, these are all the important tips that I can give you for the preparation of CAT and XAT examination. Now, in my subsequent sessions, I will be taking sessions in which I'll be discussing the actual questions of CAT and XAT examination, right? Since I am a faculty of Quant and logical reasoning and data interpretation, so I'll be taking these subjects, but definitely our team will conduct sessions on the different type of questions, the different sections of that examination as well, right? So friends, I hope you would have enjoyed this session. Now we have admission open. We have new batches for the preparation of CAT 2023. So you can join BYJU'S exam prep to ACE CAT 2023 by joining CAT 2023 comprehensive programs. So on your screen, you can see the complete details of this program, right? There is also scholarship test that will be conducted that we are conducting on the coming Sunday. Okay, so you can keep an eye on those scholarship tests and join BYJU'S exam prep. Also, in case you want to have an understanding of what we give to our students, you can have a free trial for 3 days. So go on to our application. So download BYJU'S exam prep CAT application from Play Store. Okay, and unlock your free trial by clicking by visiting this particular page. Okay, so you'll see on the home page only, and you can start your free trial on for 3 days. Arjun asks, that part one unattended question contains negative marking? Yes, Arjun, yes, but that is a very nominal negative marking, so please ignore that. Don't create an undue pressure in your mind because of that. Sectional cutoff percentile for Blackie. So Arjun, it is different, but if you are getting 90 percentile in each and every section, that means the sectional cutoff for each and every college has been taken care of. Shubham, you are saying that your videos helped me to secure 97.97 percentile in CT. Shubham, I am really happy to hear this, that you have got 97.97, approximately 98 percentile in CET examination, and I'm also happy that our team could help you in securing that, and you are satisfied with the efforts that we have made for you. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you for mentioning this particular thing. Now, these are the other toppers like Shubham, which were my students the previous year. All right, so these are the toppers from CAT 2022. Now, like I was telling you that you can get up to 90% scholarship. This next scholarship test is being conducted on 11th of June at 11 a.m. So you may register for this examination in case you want to avail this scholarship. Now, CAT 2023 month-wise study plan. Saral sir will be helping you in making that. So there will be a live interactive workshop on 6th of June at 7 p.m. That will be conducted on our application. So please Devise your test taking strategy with Saral Sir by registering for this session that will be conducted on 6th of June 2023 at 7 p.m. on the application of BYJU'S exam prep. All right. So, friends, that is all from my side for this day. You can follow us on these social media platforms. Thank you very much for being a part of this session. Have a wonderful time preparing for CAT and XAT examination. All the very best to all of you. Bye bye.